I heard from 3 people earlier this week that he had sold Brewbakers, and he says he didn't sell anything, so go figure.
So he says that was a false rumor?
False rumor, which he probably started.
Maybe he started the rumor.
I'm sure he did. Knowing Jeff, I'm sure he did. Anything that'll bring people to his restaurant, I'm trying to try anything. But,
We still have our music jam every Tuesday night at
every
Richie's.
Tuesday night at Richie's,
6 to 8.
6 to 8.
Open mic night, Thursday night,
Well,
6 to 8.
Tuesday, I can't do it Tuesday, I'll be at Monk's Oven with Michael and Lynn on Monday. Just in case you are unaware of it, for the last several weeks, Monk's Oven has provided music Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday night. Okay, Tuesday night, Lynn and Lindy, and there's usually a $5 cover on that. And again, this Tuesday coming, there will not be a $5 cover.
Colin Boyd was there last week.
Last Thursday. Wednesday night is usually Kevin Tinney and Chase, whatever Chase is.
Glover.
And then others sit in. Sometimes Gus will sit in, or Richard Linnaeus will sit in. And then Thursday night is kind of potluck, and Colin was there last Thursday, and Bob Watson was there last
Well, somebody
week.
canceled. I don't know who, but that's why they called Colin
Okay.
from Dallas to
Well,
come.
that's fine. And they've had Tyler Linnaeus and his singing girlfriend have been there a couple of times, and Heather Little was there a couple of weeks ago, and that's free. I mean, you just sit back there and eat or drink.
Colin tells me he'll be back at Monk's Oven on March the 3rd.
Great.
I don't know what day of the week that is.
It's
But
probably a Thursday. But that's the night they usually do it, either Wednesday or Thursday. So, that's,
Even place it sure is busy.
yeah, we're just rocking and rolling here in Winnsboro, downtown Winnsboro. Today. I thought about it this morning and then promptly forgot about it. And, I did
I almost write one every day.
well, good for you. Man. I did that when I was writing. I try to write something every day. Right after I moved here, I did kind of a extemporaneous one on books that I didn't write it down. I still don't have it written down. Joanne recorded, that's the only copy of it. And I've not listened to that recording, so I don't know.
Go dig deep into the archives on YouTube and recover it.
Recover it. And I almost wrote something like that because of all the books I've got. But it slipped my mind. I went in and disappeared, got lost, so I didn't do it. I don't know if I'm going to read from this one. I think I've read most of the ones in here. This one, I'll read this one. This is the T.S. Eliot book, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. They're all about cats. All these poems are about cats, very strange, interesting cats.
Just love that one.
And I've read a couple of them. I read the Mistopheles, and I've read Macavity, the Mystery Cat. And this is I'm going to read this to see how long this one is. This is Gus the Theater Cat. Now, I really should read this one. Gus is here. I may have to do that later. I'm supposed to be over at Leafy's eating dinner right now. They're having another birthday dinner for me. I've had several.
Who is Leafy?
Leafy's. I've had several birthday dinners since I had my birthday in November. And since that birthday, every time Gus, Carlos, Jack Ainsworth, Carlos Owens, Jack Ainsworth, see me, they sing me happy birthday. So I've had happy birthday sung to me about 20 times since my birthday. And so Carlos called me up and said, can you come to your birthday dinner at Leafy's tonight at 6:15? And I said, oh, sure, forgetting that I'm going to be doing this. So I'll be late over there. And they'll probably sing happy birthday, and I'll get a free dessert at Leafy's. All right, this is called, this is all cold readings. I haven't read any of these things before. This is Gus the Theater Cat. Gus is the cat at the theater door. His name, as I ought to have told you before, is really Asparagus. That's such a fuss to pronounce that we usually just call him Gus. His coat's very shabby. He's thin as a rake. And he suffers from palsy that makes his paw shake. Yet he was in his youth quite the smartest of cats, but no longer a terror to mice and to rats. For he isn't the cat that he was in his prime, though his name was quite famous, he says, in its time. And whenever he joins his friends at their club, which takes place at the back of the neighboring pub, he loves to regale them, if someone else pays, with anecdotes drawn from his palmiest days. For he once was a star of the highest degree. As he acted with Irving, he's acted with Tree. And he likes to relate his success on the halls, where the gallery once gave him 7 cat calls. But his grandest creation, as he loves to tell, was Fire Frory Fiddle, the fiend of the fell. I have played, so he says, every possible part, and I used to know 70 speeches by heart. I'd extemporize back chat, I knew how to gag, and I knew how to let the cat out of the bag. I knew how to act with my back and my tail. With an hour of rehearsal, I never could fail. I'd a voice that would soften the hardest of hearts, whether I took the lead or in character parts. I have sat by the bedside of poor little Nell. When the curfew was rung, then I swung on the bell. In the pantomime season, I never fell flat, and I once understudied Dick Whittington's cat. To my grandest creation, as history will tell, was Fire Frory Fiddle, the fiend of the fell. Then if someone will give him a toothful of grin, he will tell how he once played a part in East Lynne. At a Shakespeare performance, he once walked on Pat when some actor suggested the need for a cat. He once played a tiger, could do it again, which an Indian colonel pursued down a drain. And he thinks that he still can, much better than most, produce blood-curdling noises to bring on the ghost. He once crossed the stage on a telegraph wire to rescue a child when a house was on fire. And he says, now these kittens, they do not get trained as we did in the days when Victoria reigned. They never get drilled in a regular troop, and they think they are smart just to jump through a hoop. And he'll say as he scratches himself with his claws, well, the theater's certainly not what it was. These modern productions are all very well, but there's nothing to equal, from what I hear tell, that moment of mystery when I made history as Fire Frory Fiddle, the fiend of the fell. Let's see.
That's a cat's meow.
Yeah. Excuse me a second while I tell Google to go someplace else. Winnsboro Emporium. I'm in the middle of my poets thing, and we have a poetry reading tonight from 6 to 7, so I'll be over after that. Well, I'll come over. I just got my favorite customers here, so I'll talk to you later. Hello, Jacob.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. I eat at the pizza place.
You did? Was it good?
Yes.
Oh boy, I love that pizza place.
He
I eat
had to
there.
come visit.
I eat there a lot.
He's been dragging us by the arm to come in here.
Would you like to sit down and join us?
I'm free.
What are y'all doing?
Poetry.
Oh, cool. Oh,
You got a
my
few minutes,
gosh.
I'll get you a chair.
We do have a few minutes. Now, whether he's going to sit down and
Animals.
do that, yeah, it might be a different story.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank
Go
It's a
ahead.
funny
He's
cat.
with
I'm gonna
us.
read about it. Want to sit over there?
Come here, Jacob. Come here.
Go sit over there with your mom.
Come over here and listen. Come over here. Come over here with Mama.
I'll read this one and then I'll turn it over to someone else. Carl was wondering where I was from my dinner. From my birthday. This is called the Rum Tum Tugger,
Wow.
which is a tongue twister in itself.
And these are poems about cats, right?
These are poems about
Talk
cats.
about dinosaurs.
No, I don't know dinosaurs. These are cats.
Listen.
I don't have anything about dinosaurs in here. The Rum Tug Tugger is a curious cat. If you offer him a pheasant, he would rather have grouse. Did I read this before?
I think so.
Okay, well, we won't read that one then. We'll go on to.
It's the great thing about getting our age. We don't remember.
We can't remember from one day to the next. Okay.
I've heard it before,
This
but
is a
that
short
one.
one. This is called Cat Morgan introduces himself. This is Brian Morgan's cat. You know, Brian Morgan owns the over there. I once was a pirate that sailed the high seas, but now I've retired as a commission heir. And that's how you find me, a taking my ease and keeping the door at the Bloomsbury Square. I'm partial to partridges, likewise to grouse, and I favor that Devonshire cream in a bowl, but I'm always content with a drink on the house and a bit of cold fish when I done me patrol. I ain't got much polish, me manners is gruff, but I've got a good coat and I keep myself smart. And everyone says, and I guess that's enough, you can't be like Morgan. He's got a kind heart. I got knocked about on the Barbary coast, and me voice, it ain't no sich mellifluous organ. But yet I can state, and I'm not one to boast, that some of the gals is dead keen of old Morgan. So if you have business with Faber or Faber, I'll give you this tip, and it's worth a lot more. You'll save yourself time and you'll spare yourself labor if just you make friends with the cat at the door. And that was written by Morgan himself, the cat. That's my cat's poems today. I'm gonna retire.
This spot to land.
Go sit with Jacob.
Jim.
How's it going?
I wanna come sit with my cat's customer.
Back here. We're going to read another story. They're going to read another story, yeah.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? You're doing good. That's great.
Zebra.
That's a
Let's see
zebra.
what's this.
Okay, this is a poem when I was very young.
What
I
is it?
lived in England,
Giraffe.
and this was a
What's
poem
this?
that I used to
Elephant.
say to my brothers and sisters.
You
And,
wrote this one.
No, I didn't write this
Oh,
one.
I
This is
see.
written by James Whitcomb Riley.
Okay.
But it's a poem that I would repeat to them when we were
That is?
living in our 300-year-old house in Lake and Heath Village,
Wow.
where everything was kind of spooky. Everything was old, and the fog would come in, and you'd hear the Big Ben clock in the churchyard. So this is called Little Orphan Annie. Little Orphan Annie comes to our house to stay and wash the cups and saucers and brush the crumbs away and shoo the chickens off the porch and dust the hearth and sweep and make the fire and bake the bread and earn her board and keep. And all us little children, when the supper things is done, we sit around the kitchen fire and has the mostest fun, a-listening to the witch tales Annie tells about, and the goblins will get us if you don't watch out. Once there was a little boy who wouldn't say his prayers, and when he went to bed at night, away upstairs, his mama heard him holler, and his daddy heard him bawl, and when they turned the kivers down, he wasn't there at all. And they seeked him in the rafter room, and cubbyhole and press, and seeked him in the chimney flue, and everywhere, I guess. But all they ever found was his pants and roundabout. And the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. Once there was a little girl who always laughed and grinned and made fun of everyone and all her blood and kin. And once when there was company and old folks was there, she mocked 'em and she shocked 'em and she said she didn't care. And just as she kicked her heels and went to run and hide, there was two great big black things a-standing by her side, and they snatched her through the ceiling, for she knowed what she's about. And the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. And little orphan Annie says, when the blaze is blue and the lamp wick sputters and the wind goes, ooh, and you hear the crickets quit and the moon is gray and the lightning bugs and dew is all squinched away, you better mind your parents and your teachers fond and dear, and cherish them that loves you, and dry the orphan's tear, and help the poor and needy ones that cluster all about, or the goblins will get you if you don't watch out.
All right.
What was the reason, the attraction that was the poem you read him?
It was just a scary thing. We were kids, and you know how kids like to kind of be scared.
So you were trying to scare him.
Well, there was four of them. I see. I had 4 brothers, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters at that time. Because the other little brother, and it was just like, you know, it was kind of spooky where we lived.
Yeah.
And you know, your imagination kind of ran wild. And so it was just kind of a silly thing that we did. But I was thinking of all of them today, and I remember that poem, and they liked it, and I used to tell it to them frequently. Along with later on, it was Johnny and Laura were lovers was a song I used to sing to them.
And what was the name of that one?
Johnny and Laura were lovers. It was a sad song about unrequited love and tragedy.
We did Frankie and Johnny were lovers.
Frankie and Johnny.
There
were
was
lovers.
Laura and Johnny. At least that's the way I
I
remember
wonder
it.
if that was maybe the early version of, that was in England, right?
Well, this probably was in Delaware.
I see.
Because we moved around, I have to kind of keep my mind where we lived. I've got where things got connected. So let me read this other one. This one I wrote, and it's called Divine Flow. When my world goes awry, done all I can do, the answers don't show up, I turn to the essence of the universe, surrendering to supreme intelligence, releasing self to higher will, uniting with it, then with renewed spirit, thankful heart, allowing divinity to flow through me, creating internal harmony and focus, returning to soulfulness, walking back into the school of life.
Ah,
Oh, yeah.
George,
Yeah,
I'll let you.
thank you. I come across the poem the other day. I could not find out who wrote it, so I'm assuming it's just anonymous.
Oh, Joe Anonymous, I knew him well.
why not just claim
Trying to
it?
get a checking account
I
with
could.
that name,
The main thing about this poem is it does relate to my thoughts pretty much exactly. It's called 4 Little Words. 4 little words have stuck in my mind from the time I was just a small child. There's a good feller, is what he would say when he talked to the man that he admired. I remember these men he talked about. Sure enough, cowboys, tough, but kind. They said what they meant, and they meant what they said. These men are getting harder to find. There's a good feller, meant he was true to his word. That's all you can expect of a man. you know for sure he was proud to meet you by the genuine shake of his hand. There's a good feller. Meant you could depend on this man no matter the task. Never got too tough, too cold, or too late for his help. All you need to do is simply ask. There's a good feller. Man, he had a good light hand, be it with horses, cattle, or crew. He spent most of his life learning this cowboy trade, and he'd be honored to teach it to you. There's a good feller. Meant don't ask him to do what ain't on a true and honest track. He knows it's easier to keep a good reputation than it is to try to build one back. Well, there's a good feller. Man, he's a fair-minded man. He helped write cowboying's unwritten laws. He won't ask you to do what he wouldn't do, yet knows at times the short end you'll draw. There's a good feller. It meant he's down on his luck. He can't hold his head way up high, 'cause he did his best and he gave it all. He knows with faith and God's help he'll get by. There's a good feller. Just 4 little words, and their meaning won't run all that deep. But when Dad would use them to describe certain men, you knew they were all on top of the heap. There's a good feller. Just 4 little words, but they're always been favorites of mine. If after my trail's end, my name is brought up, there's a good feller would suit me just fine. Thank you.
There's Jim, I guess you're. Are any of y'all reading?
No,
we
no, we're
we
just
just kind of
Okay.
stumbled upon.
Jim, you're next.
Okay.
Little Jim the Wrangler.
Little
Yeah, I barely made it. I've been in a lot, you know. One bull got where he wasn't supposed to be, and another one got where he wasn't supposed to be, and it was kind of a little western.
Well, now, what did they tell us last week or week before? What happened? You recently had a big award in one of your stock, didn't you?
Well, I had a bull that won one in Fort Worth,
Yeah.
and he was the one that didn't need to get out. But everything's fine now. I just had to do this because it reminds me of the way things are. I just call it a simpler time. Oh, how I long for the days of old. It was a simpler time, those days of gold. People knew their neighbors and helped each other out. All you had to do was just give them a shout. Sitting outside in the evening, watching lightning bugs in the dark, kids running and playing games, it was all quite a lark. The most risque thing on TV, the pajamas the Ricardos wore to bed, covering them head to toe as they climbed in their twin beds. As kids, we roamed the neighborhood, parents not having a care. We stayed out till bedtime, a little past if we dared. Real Coke, mashed potatoes and gravy, biscuits and fried chicken. No additives, no preservatives, none of those things that sicken. People ran for office actually because they wanted to help. Now the ones we have make us want to yelp. I guess I'm an old fuddy-duddy, wanting things as they were, but it seems a better time than this world that's in a blur.
Now, that's an original poem.
This one is too, but I don't know what the name of it is.
We'll name it for you tonight.
You will know peace when with the Spirit worry and fear cannot defy it. Stay in the present, forget the past. Tomorrow's not promised, today may be the last. Expect nothing and accept only what you believe. Make no man your master, for they will deceive. Believe in goodness and strive to do right. Life can be lived to the fullest when the silence becomes quiet while alone in the night.
Amy?
Wow. Anybody got a name for that? Somebody be thinking, help Jim name that poem.
Very good.
Don't forget your pizza unless you're going to give it to
Oh,
me.
yeah. Oh, she can't believe it at the restaurant.
I keep thinking I need another candle
That was
soon.
enjoyable.
Let's see, leave that on or not? 23, yeah.
It's obviously not in the wine part of it.
Let's see, the one that Doc read, I'd like to make a comment on that. That there's a good fella, I guess that we'd call that the title of it. You know, I've heard that so many times, I've never heard it described so beautifully. I think if I was you, I'd just claim that poem, but until, you know, say, until proven otherwise, this is an original poem. But I did write a essay one time, several years ago. One of my closest ever friends, one of my buds from college, you know, there were three of us that were always together, and one of them died in a private plane crash in 1981 after we had been together for 3 days on a work detail. And I was, you know, I was really, my life was changed by that event. And I tried to write about it for a long time. I wasn't able to actually get through it, you know, emotionally. It wasn't that I couldn't, you know, that I didn't have the words or that sort of thing. I just emotionally would choke up, you know, and I just couldn't get through it. Couldn't really write get very far into it. You know, 2 or 3 lines and I'd have to stop. But in 1997, the year I moved back here, I was able to finish it. So from 1981 to 1997, it was just too much. But the title that I put on it was "A Man to Ride the River With." Now, if you're a cowboy, you know that means somebody you trust your life with. I mean, that's an old cowboy saying. And my friend was a cowboy. I thought of him all the time you were reading there. Now, I'm not going to read one of my daughter's poems today, or one of mine. I recently came in possession of a book called Poems That Make Grown Men Cry.
Perfect for you, Joe.
So I'm going to read one of the poems here. There are a lot of poems in here, and a lot of them are pretty emotional. This was the one that kind of spoke to me. And it doesn't take much to make me cry. You know, I mean, I can get caught up in the emotion of words very easily, and am brought to tears quite often by someone's talent. I'm pretty close to it while Doc was reading "Now There's a Good Fella," you know, because I was thinking of Forrest Cooper. Okay, the title of this one, maybe I'll tell you. Or maybe I'll just read it, let the words speak for themselves, rather than give a little bit of, yeah, every one of these has a background story, but it's the words that really are supposed to be what makes a grown man cry. And the title is Remember. It's not very long. Remember me when I'm gone away, gone far away into the silent land, when you can no more hold me by my hand, nor I have turned to go, yet returning stay. Remember me when no more day by day. You tell me of our future that you plan. Only remember me, you understand. It will be late to counsel then, or to pray. Yet if you should forget me for a while, and afterwards remember, do not grieve. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of the thoughts that once I had, better by far you should forget and smile than that you should remember and be sad. 1862, written in 1862. I finally got to where I could remember and write about Forrest Cooper, you know, without being brought to tears. And I'm an Aggie. He was an Aggie. We were both in the same class at Texas A&M. And another guy, the three of us that were together all the time. The third one was Johnny Cates, who was the county agent here for 30-something years. And I have since written a, let's say this essay. I first wrote it for a short column, a one-page column in Farm Journal magazine. I was then on the staff at Farm Journal. And then I expanded it into a about a 30-minute oral presentation, which I give at Aggie muster events from time to time. And I'll be giving it in, I've given it 8 or 10 times. Conrad recorded one of them one time, and used to, I don't know if it still has it or not, he used to have the video here. It was on sale. I'll be doing it in Queen City, Texas, again, in muster is always April 21st. Anybody else know what also happened on that day?
Earth Day. Earth Day.
Say again?
Earth Day?
Maybe, I don't know. But it's also San Jacinto Day.
Yeah.
And this is the sacred day in Texas A&M. There's no, Texas A&M has hundreds of traditions. None of them is more sacred than muster, because the names of the deceased of the past year are called, and a comrade always answers here, and we have a candlelight ceremony for that. And somebody says a few words. And I'll be saying a few words about my friend Forrest Cooper, a man to ride the river with, this year at Queen City, Texas. Traditionally, we close our meetings with a paragraph from How to Read a Poem, subtitled And Fall in Love with Poetry by Edward Hirsch. We're now on page 32. I would also keep in mind the magical potency of the made thing. What Picasso said about painting being more than an aesthetic operation is equally true of poetry. He declared, Picasso did, that art is a form of magic designed as a mediator between this strange, hostile world and us, a way of seizing the power by giving form to our terrors as well as our desires. I think you were, with your Little Orphan Annie poem, you were seizing the terrors of your, was it your brother, or who was that you were reading it for?
Oh, my two brothers and 2 sisters.
Yeah, you were kind of probably consciously, subconsciously, or unconsciously, I don't know, my suspicion, because I remember how, when I was a boy, how easy it was for us to scare each other, you know, with ghostly things.
Yeah.
And by the way, A Little Orphan Annie was probably my favorite comic book character when I was a teenager. And I read a lot of the comic books. Occasionally when I'd see a newspaper that had Little Orphan Annie. I always looked to see if they had Little Orphan Annie in it. And there was just always something about, the Little Orphan Annie was a little girl, but she was the words, the dialogue and everything, and the plots that they gave her in the comic books were maturing. It was really like she was a grown-up. And I guess maybe might have been why I liked it so much. I don't know. But anyway, that's the short paragraph for this this meeting. I'll repeat again. Email from Bonnie said she hopes to be here for our next meeting in March, and we'll hope that she is.
Where's she at now? California?
I guess. I think that's where she
I think so. I think that's where she went. Another thing about that poem is it's also about trying to scare kids into being good. So it
Yeah.
was it was a fear-based parenting practice
I see. So it
as well.
had a moral to it,
Yeah.
or a training goal. Well, that's it. Does anyone have any final thoughts, or anyone thought of a poem you'd like to read, or thought of a title for Jim's poem about time? I haven't really come up with a good thought
I
for
couldn't
you.
either.
You man nailed it right there. Time.
Just call it time.
I don't know. You mentioned peace in the night. In that one? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Peace in the night. It's really deep.
I remember when I was a senior in college, I worked. One of the things that I did, part time, was work on a campus magazine that was sponsored by the College of Agriculture, and it was called The Agriculturalist. Was the name of the magazine, and I was the managing editor of it that year, and I wrote a column about time, and it was.
Was it about time?
Yeah. Well, it was about time, but it was also kind of on let's put it this way. Nobody on the staff understood the poem, or the essay, I mean, what I tried to do on it, I think, was talk about time as being something we don't understand, that how it's kind of a shapeshifter sort of a thing. Does anyone watch the Beowulf series on TV? Everybody knows what Beowulf is. Remember, you studied Beowulf, didn't you, in high school? They've got a series called Beowulf, and I've been watching it some the last few months, and I'm really enjoying it. And they have a character or a people in this series they call them skin shifters instead of shape shifters. But you've always heard the term, magicians sometimes use the term shapeshifter. And I always thought that it was probably inspired by the Shakespeare quote where he says, "The devil hath power to assume a pleasing shape," and it's something that we don't think about too often. But if you've not seen the Beowulf series at all, if you've never seen one, I think if you watch one of them, you'll probably be hooked and want to watch it. Beowulf, just the same way it was when you studied it in high school.
I'll wait for it to come to Netflix. Watch the whole series that way.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go eat.
Yeah, well,
Thanks for hosting us.
you're very welcome. I doubt if they're still waiting for me over there.